talk about Game of Thrones. The finale just aired last night. It's the last episode ever of Game of Thrones, of this chapter in A Song of Ice and Fire. And this will be the last Game of Thrones review of all time. And if you're not aware yet, this review will be filled with spoilers. Let's talk about it. And this season has been filled with controversy. Most people are disliking it, if not despising it. I am in the minority where I've been enjoying it and loving it for the most part, not counting episode 4. But yeah, the finale to me also keeps that going. I really love the finale for the most part. I will get to my big issue at the end, and it is a big issue that encompasses a lot of things, so I'll just leave it to the end. We'll focus on it. So the first half of the episode is really the aftermath of the burning of King's Landing. Tyrion is distraught, Jon Snow is distraught, Arya has her eyes on the Mad Queen. She's ready to strike at any moment if need be. It's just a very desolate image, and once again, I gotta congratulate the cinematography and the direction on this episode, like in many Game of Thrones episodes. It just looks stunning. Some of the wide shots in here are mesmerizing to watch. It's amazing how cinematic this show looks. Really 95% of the time or something like that. So Daenerys declares that they've conquered King's Landing, but the conquering hasn't stopped. This is just a big first step of them, and she's going to take her soldiers, her Unsullied, her Dothraki, into many other places in the world and cleanse this whole world and bring forth a new, good, prosperous paradise under her rule. And so Tyrion admits that he betrayed her, that he freed his brother, because she knew that already. He takes out the pin of the hand, throws it down the stairs, and she sends Tyrion to prison. And after that comes one of my favorite scenes in this episode, which my favorite scenes are always kind of the same because they're always the conversation between Jon and Tyrion. This is the first one where Tyrion is sent to prison, Jon Snow goes to visit him, and they talk about what is the right choice and what is the hard choice. So Tyrion talks about loving Daenerys, believing in Daenerys, but he knows that this will not be the last of it. Things are going to keep going the way they did in the last episode if Jon doesn't do what is right, and it is also the hard choice to make, which is why I really like that they had Jon Snow be the one to do one thing that we're going to talk about, and that is killing Daenerys. Because if it was Arya, the decision of killing Daenerys would be easier for Arya. It would be very easy. She was talking to Jon Snow. I'm going to do it if need be. I know a killer when I see one, looking at Daenerys. So Arya making a choice to kill Daenerys would have been rather easy for a character like Arya Stark. Not only does she kill in general, but she sees who Daenerys truly is. She sees this character that has fallen from grace so much. She already has her mind made up when it comes to killing Daenerys, whereas Jon, he's conflicted about love, about duty, about what is right, about what he should do, or about what he's meant to do. Love is the death of duty. He has this entire conversation with Tyrion that brings things back from previous season, conversations that they had with each other, conversations that they had with other people that show their character development, their character growth throughout the entire show. And Jon is not satisfied with this, but he knows what is right, and Tyrion knows that he knows what is right. So Jon goes to Daenerys and they have this conversation about what is good, not only for them, but for the people of the world in general. And Jon also speaks the truth. There are so many people who believe they know what is good for the world. The Lannisters believed they knew what was good for the world, and look what the world was brought into. And throughout this entire conversation and the scenes we've already talked about, we gotta congratulate the acting. The acting just around in this show is absolutely freaking phenomenal. There is no other way to put it. Throughout this journey, we have embraced these characters not only because of the direction, writing, cinematography, all the technical aspects when it comes to filmmaking, but the actors. They make so much of what the characters are. The casting itself is so important that there would be no other actor right for these roles, and the conversation between Daenerys and Jon just proves to that. It's an amazing moment, and throughout it, Dany, you can see the madness in her eyes, and Emilia Clarke acted the shit out of that scene. You can see the madness, the obsession there with believing in what she believes. She believes this is right. Just like any good villain in a show or a movie or a story in general, they believe they are right. And in this moment, I saw kind of a Thanos personality to Daenerys. She is no wronger than he was in Infinity War. Thing is, she doesn't want to just kill 50% of the population of the world. And so Jon kisses her. She will always be his queen because he is also conflicted about love. And so is Daenerys. Throughout this obsession, this madness, you still see that she actually really, really does love Jon Snow. She loves Jon Snow as much as she believes that what she's doing is right. They kiss, and Jon makes the tough choice after vowing that she will always be his queen. He stabs her in the lung, and she drops. And she starts bleeding out, she starts dying, and Jon is faced with his decision, thinking about all the repercussions that are going to have. And in comes the baby boy, Drogon, and he touches Daenerys with his face, shaking her up. And he's mad, but he's not going to burn Jon. He didn't see that Jon killed her. He just sees a pointy object. He sees the throne. The throne is also pointy, so the throne must have done it. And he burns the throne up, and it's an amazing scene. The shots in this scene alone are freaking spectacular. He burns the throne to liquid state, so if Daenerys doesn't sit on the throne, nobody sits on the throne. He picks his mother up and flies away into the east, apparently, according to something someone says later on in the episode. And so Jon is in prison. Tyrion wakes up a few weeks later. That's the next shot we have. And he's presented towards the council of the great houses of Westeros, with Grey Worm taking him there. And Grey Worm's still a believer in Daenerys. He doesn't want him to speak. He still wants the will of his queen to be done. And so now they are trying to decide what they're going to do with Tyrion and who should be the next king of the 7, put an asterisk on that, kingdoms. And so Edmure Tully goes to talk, but nobody wants to hear him speak. I mean, poor guy. I didn't know what to think of this scene. Like, it was funny. Not of the scene, but of this moment. It was funny that they didn't let Edmure Tully talk, but it really felt weird. Maybe because the character hadn't had that much to do so far in the show. We haven't seen him in a long time. But it just felt weird that his family would scorn at him and tell him to sit the fuck down. And then Samwell Tarly has the freaking amazing idea of starting a democracy and letting people vote for who they want their leader to be. But the Great Lords don't agree to that. And so we move on and we do not reach democracy. There's this great exchange that Jon Snow must pay for his crimes. He shouldn't be the Lord of Westeros, the King of Westeros, and put an asterisk on that as well. And Yara, or Asha Greyjoy, I don't remember what her name is, she's a Greyjoy, nobody cares. And she says that Jon Snow should die, and Arya says, you say one more word about killing my brother, I will slit your throat. And everyone starts to get up, and I'm like, yeah, kill her, she's a Greyjoy, nobody cares, they should all be dead, nobody fucking cares about the Greyjoys. They're afterthoughts, that's what they are. And so Tyrion starts this speech that makes total sense and nominates Bran to be king of the 7 kingdoms, the Three-Eyed Raven, the man who has the most stories to tell. And I see people saying that Bran isn't the guy with the most stories to tell, and they put up these pictures of all these other characters. Bran has all those stories. He knows everything, past, present, and future, until the moment he dies, I think. I think that's the rule that he has, as well as the Ancient One from the MCU. Bran can see everything, every single one of those stories from other people. He can see it. He knows it past, present, and future simultaneously. I said that word wrong. But Bran doesn't want to be king, but that's what fate awaits for him. He knows that. He saw it all, and so he accepts it, and Tyrion will serve as his end, because he doesn't want to. He will try for the rest of his life to fix the mistakes he did serving Daenerys Targaryen. And Grey Worm goes to the west because that's where Missandei wanted to go, so I guess that's the most appropriate ending for him. If he has no willpower of his own, if he never had, I don't know why this character is still alive at the end. Honestly, I like Grey Worm as much as the next guy. Without Daenerys, without Missandei, I don't know who this person is, you know? And Sansa says that Winterfell was at one time an independent kingdom of its own and will stay that way. And so the way for Jon to be pardoned is to be sent back into the Night's Watch again, which is just a terrible, terrible ending for this character. And again, remember the asterisk that we put on Jon Snow being nominated King of the Seven Kingdoms? There wasn't even a discussion about it, but we'll get to it. He says goodbye to his family, to Sansa, to Arya, who is now going to the west. She is assassin Christopher Columbus, and I love it. She goes out there with a Stark banner on her ship in this great, great montage at the end with the main theme playing out as we see all the Starks getting their proper ending, which is not the ending anybody wanted. This is not a happy ending. It's just an ending that had to be done. It's compromises that these people make. Just like in life, you make compromises because it has to satisfy everyone. So Sansa is named Queen in the North, and Bran stays King of the Seven Kingdoms with his council being constituted of Brienne, who finishes up writing the deeds of Sir Jaime Lannister, and Bronn, who is now Master of Coin, and Davos Seaworth, who is just one of the best characters in this show, and Liam Cunningham in that meeting is just so fucking good. And Davos, who started out as an illiterate, he is now Master of Grammar, and I love it. And then there's also Maester Samuel Tarly, who still got his teeny chain around his neck. It's just so cute. And Tyrion as the Hand, and they're singing A Song of Ice and Fire that has been written. And Tyrion is not mentioned, which is ironic, but at the same time kind of stupid that A Song of Ice and Fire that is written by George R.R. Martin, it says his favorite character is Tyrion, and now in the actual book, it's not even mentioned that he is a person, and an important person nonetheless. And I love seeing that Podrick is now a member of the Kingsguard. It's just fantastic for this character. He deserves it. And Jon, he gets to the north, but he's not going to stay in the Wall. He's going to be the king of the free folk. Bronn knew it. He sent him there. And that is the way that Jon is going to be happy. He's going to be free. He doesn't want to be king, so he is free. And he stays with Ghost, even though he doesn't deserve that dog, because he didn't pet him last time. So he doesn't deserve that dog, but Ghost is happy that Jon is there, so I'm going to be happy for Ghost. So that is the recap, and as a whole, this all made sense. No one was happy. No one had their ideal ending turn out to be true, which is great. That is one of the things that makes us relate to these characters. Not having a happy ending doesn't mean necessarily that people die, but not having a happy ending means you don't find yourself in the situation that ideally you'd see yourself in, you thought you'd find yourself in. Ideally, the Starks will all stay in King's Landing, Jon as king, Sansa by his side, Tyrion as well maybe, Bran would be someone important, and Arya would be his personal assistant assassin. So I love that we didn't get a happy ending, a satisfying ending, we just had a very good compromise for these characters, that they could find happiness, a small glimmer of happiness in what they were left to do despite circumstances. And creation of circumstances is what defines people and personalities. And so these characters were brought together and they were torn apart by circumstances. And that is also what brought them to this ending. And I thought it was great. As a whole, this episode was great. It looked good. It was fantastically set up. The payoff was amazing. And seeing these characters in this episode specifically pays off the entire show. And that's something I like in finales of series as a whole. Now let's get to my problem, because my problem is that in that meeting with all the great houses of Westeros, nobody thought that would be a good idea to reveal that Jon Snow is Aegon Targaryen the Sixth. Now, I'm not saying that would solve magically everything and everything would turn out to be alright and would give the dividends to our characters. It would give them the happy ending that they and us as fans would idealize and dream about. I'm not saying that would fix everything, but I'm saying it's kind of an important thing to bring up. Because in that council, Sansa, Tyrion, Bran, Arya, and Sam, those are the only 5 people that, to our knowledge, as fans, as audiences, those are the only 5 people in that council that know that Jon Snow is actually Aegon Targaryen the Sixth. Again, don't think that would fix everything, but I think it's kind of important, a big deal to bring up. Like, Daenerys Targaryen was killed not by Jon Snow, but by Aegon Targaryen VI, the rightful heir to the Seven Kingdoms. It just bothers me that a thing that is so important, it was so important throughout the entire show until it's revealed, to the point that it started a conflict and friction between Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen and their relationship that is not even brought up when it comes to nominating a king or forgiving Jon of his crimes after Daenerys is gone. Why is that not a thing? It really bothers me, and again, I like a lot of the endings in this. I like them so much. It makes so much sense for these characters to find themselves in these situations with now having to lead these lives after this incredible saga. It just bothers me that it wasn't a thing that was brought up. It just bothers me that it wasn't a thing that was brought up in that meeting. And I guess that is the problem that people had throughout this entire season, that things were not brought up here or there, people didn't do this thing here or there. To me, this is the one that I grabbed onto. This is the one that clicked on my head like, wait a minute, why aren't people saying that he is Aegon Targaryen? Why isn't that a thing? And I just wish it was a thing. It would be over quickly. Find yourselves around that too. If you want to bring the characters to this conclusion that we saw, but still, it's kind of a big deal. I'm just saying it's kind of a big deal. So yeah, it's a big problem. It encompasses a lot of things. It would probably change a lot of what we saw near the end in those last 5 minutes of this show as a whole. Nonetheless, it being a finale for a series, it's important to look back on the show as a whole. Jon Snow young, Arya young. We grew up with these characters in a great deal. We grew up with so many of them. We've learned to be like so many of them, and at the same time learn not to be like so many others of the characters on this show. Despite what I see people saying about Season 8, I think it's important for them to remember how much they praise the people behind this show in the previous 7 seasons. So feel free to think what you think. If it's what you feel, if it's what you think about this season, be honest with it. And don't let me or anyone else change your mind about it. Because your opinion is as valid as anyone else's. If it's what you feel truly. To me, I love this show. And this season had a lot of ups and downs. It felt rushed in points. The execution was not all there. There are so many things that you can nitpick. But to me, they are mostly nitpicks. And I don't like to focus on nitpicks. I like to focus on things that affect things in the bigger picture. And that's why I just mentioned Aegon Targaryen should be a thing. This season is by far not the worst of the show for me. The worst season of the show is, and will always be now that it's over, Season 2. That's the worst season of the show, and it's still watchable. I think Season 8 really holds up if you rewatch it. And yes, I'm going to rate it because we've reached the end of the series, and I'm going to give Game of Thrones Season 8, the final season, a B. Now guys, what did you think of Game of Thrones, of this season, of the last few seasons, of the show as a whole? What are your best and worst memories from this show, and how did you come to watch it? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you so much for following me in this journey. Thank you so much. I'll have reviews for Aladdin, Rocketman, and others this week. I hope to see you there as well. So until then, stay beautiful, stay geeky, and if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button, click the bell, so we can be geeky unite!